He's passionate about science and research, and he has engaged in quality scientific productions. And I trust that he's going to deliver a quality lecture to us tonight. So let's get prepared. Prepare your mind, your questions, get your writing materials, even as it comes up. So please let's welcome Kehinde, Sulaimon, Ayinde as it comes up for the lecture. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. List on me, right?
Yes, listen.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for having me here. And also thank you for the kind introduction. So, as she has said, my name is Kehinde Sulaimon Ayinde. Um, I'll be walking us through uh, this very interesting topic, uh, which will be like a sort of discussion and enlightenment. Okay, because I'm aware that we are in this group, we are very optimistic about research. We are very optimistic about science, particularly. So let's just enjoy ourselves. So I'm going to have to present my a slide. I have a couple of slides here, which I'm going to present. Hold on a second, please. Okay, I think you should be seeing my slide now, right?
Yes, I can see.
Yes, can see this
Okay,
right
thank
now.
you very much. Okay, so uh, scientific writing. What we should know generally about scientific writing is that writing is not uh, a rocket science, and the best part of science is when you are able to tell your story, and you are able to tell your targeted audience what you have been up to. So imagine people doing invention, people doing sciences in as far back as the 18th and the 19th. So if these people were not able to present what they have discovered, and they have not be able to put down this data, then there will be a big problem about uh, sequence in science. So actually doing science is also as important as writing the outcome of science research. So I'll be talking today, and I'll be talking about thesis writing. Also, I'll be talking about literature review, because the topic is kind of is so different. The technology is the technicality is so different. Thesis and literature review, but I'll make sure I try to uh, juxtapose the two fields together, so that we'll be able to get the idea of what I'm talking about. So the first thing you must know when you are trying to come up with a writing, or come up with some form of review, literature review, as you may call it, you must have something we call a portfolio. Now, this portfolio, it's like your tool, your toolkit. It's something you take along when you are going to work. So the writing portfolio, and you must have a toolkit, and you must also have a form of example. Okay, I am in a diabetic field, and I want to write something in diabetes, or my thesis is in diabetes, or I want to make a literature review about diabetes. Apart from having a writing toolkit, what are the writing toolkits? I'll still come back to that. Examples is that I always try, personally, I always try to go to high impact journals and high impact uh, data repositories that you can find writings or you can find papers that are similar or they are in the same field to which I want to write about. You understand? So by doing that, now I have my toolkits and also have my examples. Now I'll just, what I will do is that I will make sure I download or see about 5 to 10 papers in which is in that field. What would that teach you? That by reading through these particular papers, which are high impact journals, it will first give you the insights into register, the registers in that field. It is very important in writing, especially when you want to write a quality research paper or quality review at school. You must have a good register of that field, and also you must have this thing. There are some stuff we call the languages and the moves, the moves, the moves. Like what are the approaches in which these people have, that incorporated into their writing that make it an high impact paper. So those are the things that you must have in your portfolio before you start anything. So the next slide here is talking about writing, two types of writing actually. So firstly, I say that there's writing for discovery and there's a writing for presentation. So this is a little bit different. So that's where the difference comes in now. When you are talking about the thesis, it can be said to be as writing for discovery, and literature review also like writing for presentation, and it's also very similar. Now, in writing for discovery, audience the audience is you personally, because you are you are your own audience. Before your writing gets out there, you must be your audience first. And the second one, the writing for presentation, I will explain further, is the audience is the world, and your target people in which you are trying to communicate to. So when you talk about writing for discovery, it involves a lot of reading, because you want to discover something, you want to find a loophole in science, you want to bring something up in which people are not paying attention to. So you have to do a lot of reading, you have to do a lot of brainstorming, you have to prepare drafts, vomit the drafts, you have to do a mind mapping. So when you say mind mapping, people do this thing, and when we say mind mapping, it's not literally embedded in the mind. It means pouring out what you have in your mind. So mind mapping is, what is the idea of what is going through your mind. Now write it down and write it in form of a map. That okay, when I want to do this thing, then this is where I start from. This is where I go to. You must document everything so that at every stage you know the next thing in which you are going to come about. The next one is writing individual parts of the paper. So that's after your mind map, you know where you are going to, you have your examples, you have your toolkit, you have your portfolio with you, then you start writing the individual parts of the paper. So, and this is where the thesis comes in, because as you are writing, you are also performing the experiments. So writing for presentation, like I said, maybe a literature review or something, it means maybe talking to meeting supervisors or talking to somebody in that field, you know, creating your own order, your own style, and your own grammar. You want to create the way you want these papers to be like. Sometimes you read papers on this journal site, and you feel like, no, this person should have done it like this. So this your own personal intuition is what you bring into the literature review. And don't forget that you are also considering the writing language, you are considering the register of other uh, writers who have done something good in that field. So, and it's a literature review, so you have to revise, revise, and revise. So, and also, after you write everything, you have to uh, present it to a journal, submission to a journal, and the paper gets accepted and is available worldwide. There's this very interesting quote by David Lindsay. He said, one of the greatest paradoxes in research is that regardless of the field, work must be written and published before it can be considered complete. So there's no how you are there's so how you are doing. There's not much you do in the laboratory. I know how much you do in laboratory. If this uh thing is not coming out as a writing, then you're not doing nothing. Nobody knows that you are doing anything. So yes, the instruction in writing is rare in the training curriculum of budding scientists. So what he's trying to say is that now that we know the importance of writing, but people don't emphasize majorly on writing. I think maybe it's particularly in Africa or Nigeria, where we come from, we don't really put that emphasis on writing in our institutions, so that young researchers, they find it very, very difficult to write in order to compete with good writers outside the country. So before you see people writing to compete with good researchers, it means it must be a huge personal development from those kind of people. So we have to always try to incorporate the act of writing in our science. So this made me remember one of a thing that happened to a friend of mine in the laboratory. So she she's a postdoc researcher, and she has been doing this particular work since about 2 years now. So one day she just woke up one day and found out that everything she has been doing, the same idea, the same results, and the same layouts has been published by one guy in China, even published in Nature. So this means that all what she's doing, there's no novelty again, because some other guy has published everything, the same different university, different country, different technique. So what does that teach us? It makes us know that the importance of writing. Nobody wants to hear that, oh man, I've been doing this thing for the past 2 years. Nobody wants to know, because it is not put into writing, and it's not sent to the outside world for people to see what you have been up to. So in order to avoid those kind of things, I think we should also encourage writing and presenting what we have, even if we think what we have is not even enough. And so there is I saw this thing from PhD Comics. Uh, is a animation. It's an animation that's it's very, 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 very funny, because and it's very common. I think it's the culture is now, getting outdated now. When you write a paper, you simplify the paper, and you make everything easy, and your supervisor will say, no, 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 you must not do that. Write everything complicated, so that people don't know how you got about your solution, and how you brought about that invention. So it's kind of awkward now, because you must write to make everything you write understandable. So this one also says that if you write it, but no one reads or understood it, you still haven't done anything. Yes. So it's a very, very important uh, quote, so to say. So there's another saying here which says, "Good writing is clear thinking made visible." So you must be able to visualize what you have done and what you are doing. So down here now, I try to jump to the ideas or the key hints, or let me say the tips in writing a good, coming up to a good thesis, or coming up to a good literature review or research. So first thing is that you have to always take notes. You have to always take notes. I said it earlier that you go to journals, you write, you read people that really talk about this field that you are trying to review. So you have to take notes of what you have been writing, and there are several um, softwares. There are several methods in which you can take notes. I like using the manual method, or a method of taking notes. That means my white paper and my biro. So there are so many writing tools, there are so many bibliographic tools, and there are so many note taking tools. So when we say writing tools, we talk about Google Documents, we talk about Microsoft Word and the likes. Bibliographic tool is those tools that you use to take notes of your
References.
your bibliographies, your references. Yeah, your references. We have people who use EndNotes. We have people who use Medley and stuff like that, and note taking tools also. There are so many unpaid and paid softwares out there that are available for note taking, writing, and bibliography. So yeah. These are some examples of the softwares in which people use for note taking. But me personally, I use my pen and my biro. Um, People use OneNote. It's also even used for drawing. Yeah, Notes is even used for drawing. Simply Notes, MV Out, notations. People use that. People use Word, Google Docs, and Excel. Notion, Evernote, Notability, Mendeley, and Scrivener. So, this aspect brings us to to the structure of a thesis and a literature review paper, or let's say a review article. So this brings us the to the main body or the idea. Every time you see a paper like this, you always see first the abstract, you see the introduction. So if it's a thesis or a research paper, you see the section for materials and methods and the section for results. But if it is a literature review, you just only see the central report section. The central report section. So instead of, because in a literature review you are not carrying out a research, so to say, you are revising what people have said, and you are trying to bring a discussion up. You are finding a loophole in science in which you think you can dwell on, either to explain um, either to provide more explanation to a certain aspect of science, or to give a solution to a certain aspect of science, or to provide a way out for scientists in a certain aspect of science. So you always have a central report section which can be grouped into subsections and like so. And finally, we always have the discussion and the conclusion aspect. So that's it. So in a thesis, you have your materials and your methods you have used to carry out your research, and you have to explain and present your results using I said infographics, using graphs, charts, and what have you. So there are some moves in which you can employ when you are writing your research or writing your literature review. They call them introduction moves. So this introduction moves is a way in which you try to introduce what you want us to know, try to introduce what you are talking about. So firstly, this move is categorized into three aspects. We have number one, establishing a territory. Number two, establishing a niche. And number three, occupying a niche. Right? So when we talk about establishing a research territory, it means that is what will point your reader or your audience to the research aspect in which you are focusing on. Right? I want to write a paper on COVID-19. So the first thing that should come to my introduction is to establish that territory that I want to write on COVID-19. The first paragraph might say a so virus has caused mayhem in the entire humankind from 2019 to 2020, which is called which scientists have referred to as the COVID-19, the COVID-19, which is caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So that is like establishing a research territory. Now, if you have established that research territory, you have introduced us to what the research aspect in which you want to be playing around with, then you have to establish a niche. So establishing a niche means trying to discover a loop in which you want to base your writing on. you understand? Trying to, or your research on, trying to okay, uh up to today, people have been, looking for ways to uh produce drugs, produce vaccines to counter the virus. All right. But now, my own view is that let's just look at uh, drug repurposing. That's a niche. So that was the base of one of my articles that was published last year. Yes, last year it was trying to bring the scientific uh, community towards looking at another niche in combating COVID-19, which is trying to dwell on drug repurposing. What do I mean by drug repurposing? It means drugs that have been established to cure a particular certain type of diseases, and because they have been approved, they have been used, and they have been saved for a long time, and they are still in use. Now let's just look at this possibility of repurposing those drugs to combat COVID. You understand? So that's another, because development of drug or everything it takes, we all know that it takes a long time to develop drug before you discover your patent, before you do your clinical trials and likes, before it becomes um, uh, approved. So why not look for this, study this mechanism of action of some repurposed drug. Some drugs can be repurposed into solving COVID-19 problem. So that is establishing a niche. People will know, oh wow, let's look at this, and people will think, oh yeah, it is you are trying to key us into a particular loophole in which we have not been seeing. And the last thing is that occupying the niche. Now bring out all the information, bring out all the ideas, and bring out all the basis of your arguments to occupy and to fix that particular niche, so to say. So if you come up with this kind of idea, I'm telling you, you are writing a very standard paper. Okay, so I think I tried to explain this each of the steps. So the first one is the establishing a research territory. So you have to think about it. Start with a familiar background information. I said it earlier. You're talking about COVID, you must start with some social virus has has evaded the world and is trying to kill everybody in 2019 and 2020. So you start with a familiar background. Identify the larger scope or field in which research is situated. So obviously that example will be biology. Why the manuscript is important to the reader? Why do you want the reader to read it? What message you want to pass to the reader? You must establish it in your research territory. Now think about the audience. Who are the people you are talking to? Who do you want to benefit with your writing? It is very also important, so that you'll be able to deal with your language when writing. So, and use logic to convince your reader, because this you are bringing something up, and mostly the research or review that will gain consideration, or that will gain a lot of audience. You must have a way to convince them that what you are saying is good, even though you are not sure. Sometimes when we write review, we provide hypothesis, we make suggestions in which we have not even gone to the lab to test. But the way you bring about the argument, the way you logically convince your reader, is very, very important in uh, literature review and thesis writing. So I said here that you can address a specific research question. I said it earlier. Or your study can provide a valuable contribution to your field. It's that you are answering a question, or you are providing contribution to that particular field, or you are trying to explain a lost science in which people are not paying attention to. So also you have to note particularly the language used in the first two sentences to express your move. You have to know the language that you are using. uh, I put some examples there. The increasing interest in the as heightening the need for is a very very interesting way to start. People, it's very captivating and people want to know what you're talking about. Another example is of particular interest and complexity are recently there has been growing interest in, I think that one is very common. The development of Dash has led to the hope that the Dash has become a favorite topic for analysis, blah blah blah. The study of blah 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 has become an important aspect of blah blah blah. A central issue in Dash, so some stuff like that. It establish your territory. It's try to explain, bring towards your audience and your readers what you are trying to talk about. So the second one is the establishing a niche, which I also talked about earlier. Here, you should hook to gain the reader's attention and draw them into the paper. Now, this is important. I said search for paradox, error, inconsistency of previous literature, the lack of knowledge in the subject, general misunderstanding of the problem. These are the things that you look for to create your own particular niche. If you don't have all these things, now ask yourself, what is unique about your work? What is unique about your research? What is unique about, maybe people have been doing this in this way, and I want to present another way of doing it in which I also get the same results. You are trying to find a unique aspect of your work. You know, many people, we have been doing gene editing. Gene editing has been in existence for hundreds of years now, even if not more than. But these guys came and they said, okay, let's do it this way. CRISPR-Cas, let's use CRISPR-Cas and do it this way. And people saw the uniqueness and the effectiveness in that CRISPR-Cas, and people are using it to do. People are using it as a standard method of gene editing now. So it's like it is not a new aspect. It's not a new field. It's not a new science. But those people have brought a unique way of going about it. So you ask yourself, what is the unique about your work? Why does it need to be communicated to others, and why do they need to pay attention to it? So lastly, talking about the occupying the niche is simply filling the gap. So you fill the gap you have created in the second move, which is the creation of the niche. So after the background and the twists, the readers anticipate the response. So they are now eager to see what are the solutions you are provided, what are the things you want to talk about, what are the problems you want to solve, or how do you want to solve this problem. So you can be vague or cagey about it, but give them some expectation of what the purpose of the purpose of the paper is. Sorry. So sometimes it might be vague and cagey if you think that you don't want to leave you don't want to let out so many information because of your own personal concern. Because I think people are always very careful about that. My supervisor is always careful about giving out so many information. If we are submitting abstract to a conference, he'll tell you, please don't, just be vague. Don't give so many information in the abstract, because people are very wise, people are intelligent. They key into your idea and straight away they're in the laboratory working. So how you are going to address the problem and the conflict is also very important, and it must be well established in the move 3, which means the occupying the niche. So occupying the niche, now you have to create some languages, like the purpose of this paper. The paper reports on the results obtained. In this paper, we give results of. In this paper, we argue that the study was designed to. This paper gives that. So all those languages is very important in occupying the niche. So also, I put it that you must also watch out for some problems. The problem of coverage not well defined. Your entire coverage is very important to define your coverage. no synthesis or discussion. People fall into this trap, especially when they are doing a review, when they are writing a review article. People fall in the trap of no synthesis or discussion. They just review. So person said that. This person said that. This person said in his paper. This person proved in his paper. Throughout the paper. But what you have not discussed what they have done. You have not brought your own idea. You have not discussed. You have not synthesized new ideas from what people have done. So it's very bad for any type of research writing. Yeah, so it's also the one in the second, the third point, which said significance not discussed is very bad, and poor structure also is very bad for your writing, and temporal myopia, like you are saying something that has happened for a long time in which people are not even interested in. So much. What are all these problems during your writing? So when should I write? I think I said it earlier. You also have to outline, that's mind mapping. You have to keep collecting information every time you are writing. Uh, you have to have relevant background information. Basically, every time I write paper, I spend. If I'm ready to write paper, then if I'm writing the paper today, and I know that I will I will start writing in 2 weeks, because the first 2 weeks I'll use it to make sure I study and have relevant information about the background of a field in which I'm writing. So you must also construct your arguments, find a way to convey your work, and at last start with your abstract and introduction. Sorry, abstract and introduction are best written last. So go to your discussion, make sure you have dealt with everything, then you come back for your abstract and introduction. So there's also a quote which says at a minimum, you will expect to make broad connections to other works. Yeah, it's very important. You will always connect to other works. Yet a strong discussion will go further, making utterly new, clever, and creative connections to past studies. So I think it's what I explained earlier, that you report past studies, but you must try to give a strong discussion in which even people will have more insight about the past works that you are citing and reviewing. So during your discussion, it must be decisive. The quality of the writing of discussion may heavily influence whether a journal accepts the paper for publication or not. You must be very very good at discussing, even if what you are discussing is not novel, but you must know how to make the connection, discuss, and present your idea to the audience so that your paper will not be rejected. So another thing is that the lack of structure makes discussion the most challenging part to write, because you get disoriented when you're writing your discussion. But when you have a structure, you have the structure that you have been following from the beginning of paper, then you are good to go. So concluding, it is recommended that you do not abruptly end your discussion. It's very common. It's very common in our undergraduate days now. When every of our discussion, what how we end it is that so that so we employ researchers to do further study. It is very bad for writing. You don't simply call for further study in your conclusions. It's very 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 bad, very very bad. It determines the level of journal and the level of impact in which that paper will go. So a stronger conclusion could also mention limitations of the study. It's not every time you say, so we researchers to study further on this. No. Sometimes can just bring about limitations of the study. What are limitations of the study? What do you think are the limitations of the study? Put it in the conclusion aspect. Applications also speculate an implication for possible future applications and final of your writing or your work or your discovery. Possible application of it. Okay, and also now talk about the future. Make specific recommendations related to the future of the study, as well as stating major findings of the study. So I think if you if you go through all these uh, sequences, all these uh, pattern to write your paper, I think it will be very, very, very important. It will be very, very, very acceptable in the scientific world. You'll be able to write a high impact journal, and you'll be able to publish in high impact factors, and be able to have a lot of audience to share your idea and research thinking. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Kendi.
You're welcome.
All right. So quickly, do we have questions, contributions, suggestions for Kendi so that we can move forward? Please, if you have questions and you don't want to use your mic, you can just drop it in the chat box and we'll read it out.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Agree.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for this session. I really enjoyed it. I have something to say. Okay, I hope you are listening. You are hearing
Yeah,
me.
I'm here. I'm here with
Okay. I really appreciate the organizers of this session. Like I say, I've really learned a lot. Secondly, I the purpose of why I really attended, I really wanted to attend this is most of us we have these research ideas,
you. Okay.
things to write about, but then we need like minds. You understand what I mean? Like people to come together and please come up with something. Understand? Work on a particular project. So I don't know if the organizers
Yeah.
can work on that. Or please convene the participants of this event. And, if okay, like if someone like me, I'm interested in cancer research and the rest. People that have the same kind of ideas, you understand, we can come up and work on something. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very important. Your is it question or observation?
It's just a
What's
comment.
really
It's a
happening is that
suggestion. It's a suggestion.
suggest yeah, because what's really happening is that you in science 2 F's are better than one in science. So I don't know about any other field, but in science 2 F's are better than one. You you should always have collaborators every time. Mm. You should always have collaborators. You should always have people in which you are like minds to write together. I have people in which if I have an idea now, I can call. I have people I can call when I have ideas. When I have ideas, I have people I can call. Okay, let's write this thing. This is the pattern of how to write, and you are sure that they also can give you this encouragement, give you the motivation, and give you what you are really really looking for in your writing. So it's always very important to have um, collaborators and like minds when you are doing science, and especially when you're writing. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, hello, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Once again, thank you,
Good
Kehinde,
evening.
for the wonderful session. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I want to quickly chip something to the last contributor,
Okay.
Phonex. I don't know, is that your name? Phonex.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you
my
hear
name.
me? Yes, yeah, thank you. We appreciate your suggestion. And truly, we are actually, that's actually one of the things we are doing now. We appreciate the fact that, just like Andy mentioned, collaboration is very important. So that's what one of the things our community is about. And we're actually working towards having people of similar interests collaborate together on something. So thanks for noting that also.
Yeah.
Please, Esther, continue.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you for next for your observation and suggestion. All right, do we have more questions for Kendi?
Okay, good
Suggestions?
evening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Olagunju,
good
can you
evening.
hear
Hello.
me?
Yeah, good evening,
Yes,
Kehinde.
we can
Thank
hear
you
you.
for the presentation. Good evening, everyone. Hope our day went well. I actually have a question. It's more about what the presenter said towards the ending. He mentioned something about, okay, I think he mentioned something about at the end of, I think, undergraduate project. Most time, I think I made the same. I think I did the same thing. He said something about, okay, something done often is like, okay, probably then at your conclusion you call like, okay, like you advise like more research work be made, something like that. So I'm actually not clear what was actually trying to like explain there. Probably if you could shed more light on that and probably better ways that that could actually be done. So
Okay.
that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. What I said is that they are conventional. This conventional way of saying that. Basically, I also did this when when I was in my undergraduate also. Basically, you test everything and it said, okay, the next, we employ researchers to go further into checking the. Okay, let me give you an example now. I studied the anti-diabetic potential of particular leaf extract on whatever diabetes or something in rats. Now, our conclusion always is that we employ researchers to further look into the extracts and further look for it and find the active components so that we can be able to use it to do drug or drug discovery. That is the most common um, things we conclude. Now, we don't actually talk about the limitation of the work. What are the limitations of the work? What 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 do we advise? uh, what do we think that our finding will provide for science in the next coming years, and what are the future prospects, okay, of that particular uh, work? So it's also important to say that people should, but normally in the science world, if somebody read your paper, somebody already know the way forward or the loophole in your paper. So you don't need to tell people that you want people to come and do more research on this particular aspect. And I'm telling you, every research idea in this world, it is from somebody's work. My research thesis is from somebody, is from a paper that, oh, this person did like this, okay, let me do this like this. So it is always from paper. People have the insight to what next to do about what you have discovered. So it will be more profitable or more interesting or more captivating to the audience to talk about other things in your conclusion other than telling them to uh, research more on your discovery. Did I answer that question?
Yes, yes, I'm clear now. Thank you very much. I'm clear
Yeah,
now.
you're welcome.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Olagunju, for your question. And thank you, Kendi, for that answer. Please, are there
Yeah,
further questions?
hello.
Anybody want to
Good
also chip
evening.
in anything? To,
Yeah, good
Good
evening.
yes,
evening.
Abdulaziz, yes,
Yeah,
can go on.
thank you very much, Kehinde, for the presentation. So I just want to ask one question. There is this thing about writing thesis.
Okay.
That there will be separation. There will be a separate section for introduction and then a separate section for literature review. Sometimes it confuses. So can you probably explain the difference between introduction and literature review as far as thesis is concerned? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that very important question. Introduction and thesis review is very similar. That's why I said in my previous slide that you always go back to writing your abstract and your introduction after the whole paper. That is where we get it wrong. Literature review is very important in writing a thesis because literature review is the basis of the established information in that particular science in which you are writing about. So after you must have uh, uh, written, you have must have searched the data repositories, search for the journals and people that have done something about that. That is what we call a literature review. You write a literature review, is compound one about your work. Now, after you have written literature review, you have written your methods, you have written your discussion and your results and your conclusion. Now
This man.
you have the whole idea of what your paper is all about. Now you can now come back to writing the introduction. So the introduction will now, what will the introduction will do? The introduction is the one that is telling your readers or your audience what they are meant to expect in the whole paper. Now introduction must that's a very another very wide aspect, because introduction, it has its own how will I call it? It has its own different patterns too. Some introductions, you start with uh, giving an idea of your research territory, giving the establishing that territory, the niche, establishing a niche in that your territory, what you have established, how you have, what are the methods in which you have used to try to fix it or try to solve the problem or try to combat it, and what are the results in which the audience should expect from the other part of the writing. So that is a basic, that's the standard introduction. So what how we make it confusing is that when we are writing, we always want to start to write from introduction. So, and we will now be confused because all the information we have in introduction, we also have it in literature review. That's not how it's supposed to be. Introduction should be the general overview to the whole paper, not the general overview to the whole to the science of your research. Do you understand? The overview to the science of your research should be the literature review, while the overview to the science of your whole write-up should be in the introduction. Understood?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks.
Yeah. So I think that explains it.
All right, Abdulaziz, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was okay. Indeed.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Any further question? Or does anybody want to say anything to that too? Okay.
Hello, good evening.
So, quickly, there's something um
Yeah, we can all see
in the
it.
chat box.
This
See that
person
I
said,
saying
no, what's now
you want,
abstract if the
yeah, if
overview
the okay.
of the paper is in the introduction. Okay.
Mm.
Now, when we talk about abstract and introduction, abstract is like a concise
Summary.
is a concise discussion
Oh,
about
no, it's not a
what you have
discussion.
discovered. Now, in abstract, you
Concise
always try to
presentation.
present some key results in abstract, because so that when somebody just reads your abstract, the person knows what you have, the person knows what your overall research is all about, the person knows the method you have used, and the person knows your key findings. You don't find key findings in introduction. The introduction, a typical introduction will bring you will bring the knowledge of the science to the reader, will bring what are the things you have considered before you have before you have written this particular paper, to bring it to you, and it will bring what are the steps in which you have taken in the paper. Sometimes you can have introduction that will start with, this paper talks about stuff so. There are a lot of writings like that. That introduction will start with, this paper tries to explain the, so it's like you are giving the overview of what the paper is all about, but the abstract you are trying to is not an overview. An abstract is trying to tell people what this paper is all about and what are the key findings in which you have gotten or you have explained in the paper. So I think that differentiates the abstract from the introduction. But the conventional way is if you always try to go through introduction and literature review, you find out that you are writing the same thing in the introduction and literature review, which is kind of always rhetoric. That's why people have
Rhetorical.
uh, hundreds of pages of their thesis, and the quality is not always very very sound, because the introduction also will always give, especially the reviewers of your paper, when you submit it to your journals, they just want to read the introduction, see what they want to expect, what they want to expect in the later aspect of the paper. That's what the editor will read. The editor will read your abstract, the editor will read your introduction and say, okay, this is also very good for our journal. So that is what the editor will consider before sending your paper to the reviewers. So the editor will not go and check the other part of the paper. No, the editor will just check your
So is that why
abstract,
you
will check your
is that why you were
introduction. So
you were
we
thinking
know
of
if your
picking my
paper is
call?
suitable for publication in their journal or reject it before you can send the
Yeah,
paper to the reviewer.
yeah,
So
I know. Of course, I know. I was
I think
joking. That's
that's
why I included.
kind of
I'm in
explains what
Nigeria.
I'm
Come
talking
and
about.
beat me. So, because
Okay, Chinaza, is that clear? Please, just
yeah, is that you speaking Yoruba?
I don't think it's here again.
Yeah,
let
hello.
us know
Did
if
you hear
that's
me?
clear by you, or you need us to
I heard you
explain
speak
more
Yoruba
about
now.
it.
So was that you?
Yeah.
Said I heard you speak
Adolapo, I think you
Yoruba.
want to say something.
Yes, good
it's
evening, Esther.
it's no more
Good evening, everyone.
Good
it's no
evening.
more perfect as it used to
Yeah,
be.
hi, Mr. Kende. Thank you so much for your presentation. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we are
so
hearing you. We are hearing you.
yeah, I just have two questions. And the
See,
very first one is that I would like you to talk
that's
about,
exactly what I'm saying.
choosing a
Well, I
topic
understand because
for
if you don't have anyone there to speak with,
schools or
it will
research work.
definitely
Like, how do you
become that.
choose
I
suitable
understand.
topic? I don't know if there are rules to that, but I'd like you to talk about that. Like, how do you select a
I can't hear you
title
anymore
for a
again. Oh
project?
God.
Yeah, so that's the first question. And the very second one is you were talking about note taking the other time, and you also discussed about some of the softwares that are used for note taking. So I've come to understand that software like Mendly are, probably are not basically being used or cannot be used here in Nigeria, because there was a time I was trying to use it to take notes for bibliography, and I discovered that you have to be forced, you have to have access to paper. So I kind of work online, like you have to be active and you must have access to research paper at that point. So in a country whereby we don't have access, like institutional access to papers or journals, what would you recommend? Is there any software you can recommend for us to use, or how do we overcome this? Yeah, thank you.
Uh, that's very very important, interesting topic. Question. To pick a topic in a paper. All right. Um, first thing I said,
Okay.
when you are trying to create a mind map about what you want to write about your thesis,
Hello?
what you want to write about, my advice
Yeah,
is
I thought
that
I
you should
lost you.
always um, develop about 3 to 5 topics for your paper.
Oh,
Be
okay,
it a
okay, okay,
thesis,
okay.
be
I
it,
think you're even
it's
driving.
different in thesis now. In a
You
thesis,
shouldn't be making this call.
you have to define your topic, but don't forget
Yeah,
that the
yeah, you shouldn't
defined
be making
topic
this
can
call. So
always change as
when
you
you no, I
continue your
think you should
research.
let's end the
But
call.
always have in
When you
mind
stop driving, we
three
can
to five
speak.
topics, different no 3 to 5 topics that are still
Yeah,
talking about
I know,
the
of
idea
course.
in which you are writing
I know.
about.
The main reason why I'm actually calling
Okay,
to you
so
was to hear,
you are writing you
to
want to
have a
write about
perception of
diabetes
your
mellitus, and you want to write about the implication of
perception. Let me put it that
a
way.
certain protein, maybe
I
AMPK,
mean,
in diabetes
your
mellitus.
current your current
Give yourself
situation
about
about
three or
it.
five different topics that you can be able
bó
to
ṣe bó ṣe bó ṣe wọlé
justify
sí.
during your writing. So after writing, now
You know,
now
you
read
know,
your
you
paper
know.
yourself. You read your
I meant
paper
to,
as
the
somebody
emojis
who
you were
holds an
sending,
audience.
the emojis you
Now
were sending. I
now read
wanted
your paper as
to
somebody
have
who's an audience. Now tell
a
yourself,
real
what
time, if real
has this
time
paper
perception
solved?
of
What is
it.
the
To see.
what is this paper telling me? Now look for a suitable topic among these topics that you have drafted and give your paper
All
a
right, so
very
let's
interesting
end this
topic.
now. We can speak
Also, you
later.
can give your
Don't let me
paper
distract your
some
driving.
intriguing topics that will
Yeah.
always want people to be hungry to read your paper. It's also very allowed. It's very, you can even give your paper funny headings, but that funny headings must be related and must, be catchy. So even if you start with a funny heading, you must always talk about what the paper is all about. And that one is also very allowed, especially it's even a current trend in science now. People give their papers funny headings. I've also tried it once, and it's very cool. So also about note taking and this the problem of accessing papers in Nigeria. Yeah, it's very important. It's very very difficult and challenging to use all these apps, all these softwares in Nigeria because of uh the science is not always very very encouraged. So other schools, every school out there, they have this subscription plan in which they have subscribed to all these data repositories, Science Direct, MDPI, and the like. So if you are opening a paper, you are opening a paper and there's no restriction. You are not don't need to pay. So that's why it's very easy to say in other part of the country or in other part of the world than in Nigeria. So I think you all know about this
No
sci-up.se.
way. No
It
way.
can be also used to uh, unlock papers.
No
And
way.
I said personally that I use my biro and my white paper to do my own noting. I still use that old cargo method, but I use end notes for my bibliography and referencing. Okay, so but if you take a paper, if you copy a paper's DOI, copy it and paste it on this sci-up.se. I heard it was not working in Nigeria for some time, but I think it's working back again. Or
I beg you.
sci-up.tw, I guess. Oh yeah, so I think it works
Yes,
now.
yeah, it's working.
Yeah, so you can just paste your papers and try to use a manual way of taking notes. I find it very interesting. Whatever you use your hand to write, I think it's coming from your brain. Sometimes typing is not and this muscle memory with your hand is very important, especially
Yeah,
we that we come from a background that we are not very accustomed to using the keyboard from young ages. Do you understand? So
yeah.
I believe in my biro more than my keyboard when I'm taking notes.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I just want to make a comment regarding having access to journals.
Okay.
I think the use of PSYOP is still controversial. Regarding the
Okay.
ethics of it, there's some yeah, some scientists are saying it's not legal. Some are
Like
saying
you are
it is.
stealing,
Yeah,
right?
like you are stealing. Yes. So I just want to sound a note of caution there that it should not be something uh, as long as it is still controversial, so that we won't be an advocate of something like that. But
Yeah, it's still
so I think one of the solutions to accessing journals, I think it should also come from having collaborators. You can have collaborators outside the countries. It could even be some of your colleagues while in school that they are now in some other schools outside the country that they have access to these journals. So you can just forward DOIs or links to some papers to them, and then I think that's a more modest way, yeah,
yeah.
of getting
I
papers. Yeah.
I
So
want to agree. I want to agree
yeah.
with him.
So of course, there are some situations. There are sometimes whereby you just face a stumbling block. You are unable to get a response maybe from a collaborator outside the country, and you are not able to access the journal. So you might, that's a desperate situation. You understand? So I'm just mentioning it that it should not be. Of course, I know that is what most people are now using now, but yeah, we are scientists, and we should stay away from
Yeah,
controversies.
I want to agree. I
Yeah,
want to agree with you.
yeah.
It's a matter of controversy all over the world because um even 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 people that have access to journals, they still have some need to use side up. And there's another particular some I know it's not like it's like stealing that particular
Yes,
um
they are stealing.
website. It's like it goes to steal the paper and shows you what's in the paper, but it's also very very controversial, as I have said. And if there's another way in which you think that you don't want to you don't want to you don't want to steal and you don't want to do something that is not modest, then this way in which you have suggested is also very important.
Yeah, for instance, we can contact you now in case we need, in case we
Yeah.
are unable to open a. Yes, we can. Or some other.
Huh?
Yes,
Yeah, no
yeah.
problem, no
I think
problem. You can
that's
contact
part
me.
of the benefit of
That's
having
part.
things like this.
Yeah, that's part
Yes.
of the reason why we are here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Abdulhafiz, for that suggestion. Okay, please, quickly before you go, I would just like to get clarity on something. While we were talking about reviewing papers, you were
Okay.
saying something about most people just say this person said this person said this person said this, and they don't even bring in their own their what they actually get
Yeah,
from
their own
them.
language. You don't own up to your
Yeah,
language. Yeah.
exactly. So I wanted to just get it. I thought review paper was just to get what others said about a particular, and maybe you are talking about something, and these are what lots of persons have said. Not like you are putting an input. So I want clarity on that. That's just
Yeah. I said it earlier that there are different type of reviews, right? So basically you have to there's this thing I heard about I heard from my supervisor. He said you have to own your language when you're writing. Okay, you have to own your language when you're writing. It's very different from reporting, always reporting what people have said. It's always very boring. If you have come across a paper that is reporting, you know that this paper is very boring. Blah 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 in 1997 said that blah 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 in 1999. No. You have not owned your language. You have not make us feel like you are the one writing. Okay, so there's no how you are not going to report people. There's no how you are not going to cite people, and there's no how you are not going to talk about what people have done. But you must own your language and always try to give explanations to something. Oh, this person said that in this person said this particular year, and you should also think that he has said this because of so. Why do you think he said it? Why do you think the result is like that? And why do you think somebody else say something else? And also, we're always afraid to try to disagree with people. It's also a part of reporting and not owning your own language. If you own your own language, you can disagree with what somebody has written. You can suggest and suggest things, many things about what somebody have discovered. In which if you are not, a review is always very very difficult to write, especially when you don't have the voice yet. I must say, it is very difficult. It's a standard review that will gain good audience and will be published in good journals. It's very very difficult to write, especially when you have not owned your own voice. What do I mean? That means you are not a master in that field. Because when you are writing that particular review, you must make comments, you must criticize, you must encourage, you must discuss, and you must say things in which you have not even done in laboratory. That is the essence of the review. You want to discuss, you want to expand this knowledge about that particular science. So reviewers now think that, who is this person talking? What experience does this person have to be able to bring this kind of writings to the table? That is why it's very difficult for young researchers to write review articles. Very difficult, because you must own your own language, and you must be a master in that particular field. So that also calls for collaboration. You understand? It also calls for collaboration. Even if that master is not even writing anything about the review, the merely appearing on that paper, and being a master in the field is also very, very, very good for your paper, and it will make your paper and your suggestions, your hypothesis, it will make it to be accepted. So I think you should always try to own your own language, even when you are reporting people's work.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry,
You know?
quickly too. I just want to know something. In finding, like establishing a niche for yourself,
Yeah.
is it majorly about what you're passionate about, or where the problem lies? Like, because you might be interested in a particular area, and then most people have done like everything, although you cannot do everything, but most people have done most of the things you want to do. But there is this other place in that same field that people are not really have not really started
Started
working with.
anything about.
Yes. Should you focus mainly on your passion for that one, or you should do this one? So what do you advise?
uh Science at this very young age, you just have to have passion for science. It is not advisable to have passion for a particular aspect of science. Okay? If you are in molecular biology and biochemistry, you must love molecular biology and biochemistry. Don't have extreme passion for a particular aspect, maybe biology, because
Okay.
you are always bound to change. You're always bound to change aspects,
Yeah.
because we are still young. We are still trying to find our feet. Nobody has nobody in my undergraduate, my own passion was, okay, maybe cancer. In my master's degree now, what I find myself doing is, I find myself doing talking about virus, talking about molecular chaperones, and all these things like that. So I must create that passion for what I am doing presently, and what I feel that I will have audience for. Okay, in my PhD, I'm not saying I'm going to do virus, or I'm going to do molecular chaperones, and all these things, but I must still be in the molecular biology environment. Do you understand? So
Yes.
you always try to hook yourself in something that you see that kini ojai matter. Sorry for those people that doesn't understand you. You have to kill yourself in that aspect, that, oh, this thing will
This
be
market.
sellable. Yeah, this
Okay.
market will sell well. It's be sellable. So kill yourself in it, explore that aspect, and make yourself something good out of it. Because tomorrow you can find yourself. I don't know where I'll find myself doing my PhD. I don't know what field, but I know that it will be in this particular biochemistry, molecular biology, and chemistry. So I'm open. So even some people have done different things in masters, different thing in PhD, different thing even in postdoc, and the particular find themselves working with the projects in which they did in their postdoc, which is different, totally different from all these things they have been working on since. I have so many people like that, so many people like that. So, and there are some also people that are very lucky that that field in which they have they have chosen since their undergraduate, they are still on it till they become researchers and faculty
Readers.
personnel. So that I think that answers your question. Just be passionate about everything, and be passionate about something that has selling points, especially when
All
you are,
right.
say, a young researcher, and you are striving to keep your feet down. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Kehinde.
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate what you said about being passionate about everything. Of course, you are saying the right thing. It's true. There is this paper of yours. chemo prevention roles of some substances on this in cervical cancers and the rest.
Yeah,
I think you co-authored with John
yeah.
Oluwafemi. Why are
Okay,
you
yeah,
looking
yeah.
shocked? Yeah. Okay, you co-authored with this man, John Oluwafemi.
Yes.
In that paper, okay, let's make it this way. I have sent you an invitation to connect with you on LinkedIn. I've gone to your
Okay.
LinkedIn profile. Please do well
I
to.
think no. I think that was a conference presentation.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it was
think
a
I've seen something like
conference presentation. It was not a. It has not been published yet.
I didn't go through it very well. I'll look through it, but I've sent you a request, an invitation to connect with you on LinkedIn. Please,
Okay.
the phone number of more pharmacy
Oh,
student, you will see them on my profile.
no
Thank you very
problem.
much.
No problem.
All right. Okay, so we have to wrap up for tonight.
Um,
Sis,
I have a
okay,
question, please.
yes. Okay.
Maybe we should take that last question before we go.
Yes, that will be the last question for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
What
Jane.
Um,
what should have typed it?
secondly, I thank you. I wanted you to comment a bit on software we can use for referencing to ease referencing when writing literature reviews.
Okay. I think I use EndNotes. This is the basic appearance of EndNotes that I use. So you can also use Medley. So I think those are the two that I can recommend that they work very well. EndNotes does a very very good work, fantastic work. It can format your reference. You can format your bibliography to any format in which your journal of interest is requiring. Because we have so many formats in which people will require the references to be. So EndNote is very important. I think it is paid. I think it is a paid software.
Yeah,
I think it's a paid
sorry.
software. I'm using my student email to access it. But there are also crack versions online. And no, I'm not advocating for stealing something. But there are crack versions online in which you can also make use of. Or you can I think it's paid. It's a paid software. All these softwares are paid software. Mainly also is a paid software.
Yeah,
But it's always ease your stress about having to format your references after you have written the whole work, because these ones, as you are writing, it is formatting for you, and you can always change formats. You can always change the numbers of your references, and it's very very cool to use software apps. So you can check for cracked versions of EndNotes or mainly online. There are quite a number of them online in which you can access. But I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it.
yeah, that's correct. I think EndNote is paid for, yes, but I think four people can use a serial number at the same
Yeah,
time. Yes,
there are multiple
yeah, there are
users. Yeah,
multiple
Collaboration
users.
again.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
but yeah,
So you can.
I think there are some other referencing tools that are free, like Zotero.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I don't use it actually. That's why I've
yeah,
not.
okay. I think Zotero is well for people in these parts of the world. I use it too. That's what I'm using. I don't have money for
Okay,
EndNote, so
okay.
yeah.
So maybe you should try Zotero, Mr. Wilt. You should try Zotero.
All right. Yeah.
I
Thanks.
think someone is
Oh,
even
Mendy,
putting it.
Mendy is free
Yeah,
too.
Mendeley is
Mendy is
free.
free too. Okay. So
Okay.
All right, so that will be all for tonight. Thank you so much, Kehinde, for your time, and thank you for that session. It was really enlightening and well detailed. We really
welcome.
appreciate you. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who attended. Thanks for your questions, your suggestions. Thank you very much. Do have a lovely night rest. Good night, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Good night.